Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are located on the earth. It's time for the morning market show with yours truly, the Algo capitalist, aka the Vulcan, coming to you live from pulsewavetrading.com, home of the world famous Pulsewave price trigger reports. So, I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. Hopefully, you got some time to relax and chill. Maybe even had time to enjoy some of your famous hobbies. Whatever floats your boat. I just hope you had a wonderful, wonderful weekend. You know, weekends are important because it gives you a time to relax and unwind, from the week. Maybe you had a rough week. Maybe you had an easy week. Who knows? All I know is rest and relaxation for some people come at a premium. So while you and I were relaxing, or should I say chillaxing, war was being waged in the land of Israel. Now, a lot can be said about what's going on in Israel. And unfortunately, there is a lot that is not being said about the war in Israel. The media will have you to believe that Hamas has attacked Israel. The mean bully Hamas has attacked the defenseless, kindest little nation on earth, Israel. And that is simply not the case. We'll get into that a little bit later on. But just rest assured that, you know, I know the algos are out and about. The bots are out here sniffing too for content that it deems going against the grain of things. And this is not an anti-Semitic commentary. And it's funny they like to throw that around. If you say Jew this or Jew that or Jewish this or Jewish that, oh, you are an anti-Jewish person. You are Adolf Hitler. You are an anti-vaxxer. You're all these antis, okay? And that's simply not the case, all right? It's not. Kanye West got in trouble for talking about it, and so did the other cat. I forget his name, the one that was married to Mariah Carey. He made some similar comments. And of course, they were taken outside to the woodshed, properly spanked, and then made to recant all of their statements and issue an apology. But has the nation of Israel issued any apologies? We'll get into that a little bit later, too. You see, the one sided media likes to shed the light on other nations' crimes while neglecting to talk about and discuss their own. We call that hypocrisy. And notice the slanted media. It's telling you how many Israelis have been killed or injured. It's not telling you how many Arab people have been killed or injured by Israel's rockets. It's not telling you how many acres of land were taken away from the Palestinians due to the aggression of the Israelis with the help of U.S. backing. They don't talk about how many people were forced off their lands and forced to flee. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about the regular bulldozing of buildings belonging to the Palestinians, because the nation of Israel is expanding its borders and saying now the border is here. Yesterday the border was there, but today it's here. So we're going to bulldoze all this down, and now this is Israel's land. Now I know some of you are already up in arms. You're red in the face. I can see it right through the monitor. Oh no, we have another anti-Semite. First of all, it is impossible for me to be an anti-Semite. That would be like calling an alligator a vegetarian. It would be a lie. He's carnivorous. He's not a vegetarian. So anyway, we'll get into that a little bit later too, if time permits. You see, they have you to believe lies and darn lies. Your government lies to you and has been lying to you about everything and anything it can. Sometimes it tells lies about things that it doesn't even need to lie about. It's just gotten so in the habit of telling lies that they start to believe their own fairy tales and myths that they propagate to the unseemly public. You guys need to remove the scales from your eyes and look to what's really going on around you. You know, war is used as a distraction sometimes. It's also used to hide economic collapse. Oh, yeah. You see, if they can divert your attention somewhere else for a while, then they can do sleight of hand somewhere else that you're not looking. It is a bread and circus dog and pony show for your benefit, of course. Of course. It's for your benefit. But what about the things that don't benefit you? And there are many. They're not designed to benefit the general public. It's only designed to benefit the elite. You notice the more draconian laws they come up with, they always find a way to exempt themselves from having to adhere to such laws. Take insider trading, for instance. If you or I were to become guilty of insider trading, we would go to prison. But when an elected official is doing insider trading, oh, it's okay. It's not illegal for them to do it. It's just illegal for you to do it. Yeah, they don't like talking about that. They don't ever want to talk about that. I wonder why that is. You should ask yourself that question. I wonder why that is. Why don't they want to talk about the stuff that they do? Because you're not supposed to know about it. It's swept under the rug. It's misinformation. It's disinformation on your part. How dare you go against the narrative? Who do you think you are? That's what Americans have to put up with on a regular basis. It's just what it is. It is what it is. You would think that by now, the average American citizen would be wide awake, eyes wide open, instead of eyes wide shut. But nope, 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 nope. None of that. We will have none of that. Instead, it's the other way. It's the other way. People are more asleep now than they've ever been. And the thing about it is, they're happy to be asleep. You'll own nothing and be happy. And they are quite content with that. That suits them just fine. While the rest of the folk who are aware and alert to what's happening continue to cry out and protest and march to no avail because no one's listening, no one's hearing you right now. They don't want to hear you right now. They rather hear the sound of their own voice. We've gotten to the point where they don't like opposition. Opposition is a sin. They only want to hear their own voices. And if you are a competing voice, then you need to be shut down. And again, that's where we are today. Dissenting voices are called disinformation and misinformation, but they get to continue to give you that type of misinformation, but they don't call it that. They call it what they're doing the truth. And you know what? They get voted right back into office without even skipping a beat. And no one's the wiser. They don't care. As long as they have their bread and circus, as long as they have the new iPhone, they're happy and contented with that. That's all that matters. Nothing else in the world matters. That's how they see things. So you need to ask yourself, what's more important to you? Your freedom or their false sense of security? Because there is no security. It's a false sense of security. We just want to keep you safe. No, you don't. The thing that you want to keep safe is the truth. You want to keep the truth safe from the people while you liberate and rob, rape, and pillage their finances and their futures away from them. That's the double, triple speak that they use. And it's unfortunate. It really is. It's very unfortunate. But it's too late. Nothing's going to change. I know you would like to hear me say, but there is a solution. No, there is no solution. For the most part, all you have is trade offs. Like Tom Sowell always says, you got trade offs. There are no solutions. Is would you rather? Would you rather this or would you rather that? And they say this right here is too much. There are too many people in the world, or there are too many people doing this or doing that, or this is bad or that's bad. But they never tell you bad as opposed to what. So they only give you a fraction of the information, just enough to turn you to their side of the argument. But they don't want critical thinking from the masses. What they want is obedience from the masses. For if they wanted input from the masses, then there will be open public dialogue and debate and the sharing of the marketplace of ideas. Instead, we have talking points and government narratives that are not allowed to be questioned. How dare you question me, boy? How dare you question me, girl? Stay in your place. That's what they want. They want you to stay in your place and don't ever get too uppity. Because then they say, we're going to shut you down. We're going to unbank you. That's what we're going to do. We're going to weaponize the law against you. We're going to weaponize the banking system against you. We're going to shut you out of it because we don't like your politics. That's where we are today. Has anyone even stopped to ask how in the world did we get here in the first place? Nope, not at all. And there's a consequence to that. You know, like the saying goes, those that don't know their history are destined to repeat it. And that's pretty much what's happening right now. History is starting to repeat itself. Is anyone really paying attention to this? What do I mean? What am I saying? Well, most of you, the only thing you're really familiar with is the most current of events. You don't go back far enough in the history. And it's not necessarily your fault. Some of you were not born at the opportune time to know what I'm talking about. So if you hear us talk about something before your time, you're like, oh yeah, okay, I heard of that. Or maybe you have not heard of that. And that's okay too. That's fine. That's not the point. The point is that if you don't understand where we are and how we got here, then it's impossible for you to do anything about it. Especially, it's impossible for you to prevent it from happening again once you have come across a workable, a workable alternative. And that's just it. There are plenty of supposed alternatives, but they're all the same. In other words, would you, the bully is saying to you, would you rather me hit you with my left hand or my right hand? It doesn't matter because that's not the point what hand he hits you with. The point is he's going to hit you, period. And it's going to have the same effect regardless of what hand he hits you with. So you're not really given a choice. It's the appearance of choice. They're not really giving you a choice. So history is starting to repeat itself. In 2008, for example, bond prices crashed before the stock market crashed. Now in 2023, bond prices are crashing yet again. In fact, we are currently witnessing one of the greatest financial crashes in U.S. history. Of course, most Americans have absolutely no idea that this is even happening. Most Americans don't know anything about the bond crash that is causing a tremendous amount of fear in the financial community right now. And that is because the big news networks aren't talking about it. They want you to focus on the fact that Hamas and Israel are volleying missiles at each other. But since the peak of the market, 10-year bonds are down 46%, and 30-year bonds are down 53%. Losses on longer dated treasuries are beginning to rival some of the most notorious market meltdowns in U.S. history. Bonds are maturing in 10 years or more have slumped 46% since peaking in March in 2020, according to data compiled by Bloomberg. That's just shy of the 49% plunge in the U.S. stocks in the aftermath of the dot-com bubble bursting at the turn of the century back in 2000. The rout in 30-year bonds has been even worse, tumbling 53%, nearing the 57% slump in equity prices during the depths of the financial crisis. You haven't seen anything like this in a very long time. And bond yields continue to march their way upwards while bond prices collapse downward because there's an inverse relationship, of course. But at the last time the yield on the 10-year bonds rose to this level was just before the 2008 financial crisis. So now at the center of the storm is the 10-year treasury yield, one of the most influential numbers in finance. The yield, which represents borrowing costs for issuers of bonds, has climbed steadily in recent weeks and reached 4.8% on Tuesday, a level last seen just before the 2008 financial crisis. We're witnessing the exact same pattern that we witnessed back in '08. Bonds crashed first, and then stocks crashed later. Now, with that being stated, interest rates are going to have a ridiculous, devastating impact on the financial system. And it's just starting to happen. What about U.S. banks? Are they going to be in a lot of trouble? You better believe it. They were already sitting on hundreds of billions of dollars in unrealized losses. The spike in bond yields in recent weeks has pushed that number even higher. Meanwhile, mortgage rates continue to soar. Freddie Mac's latest primary mortgage market survey released shows the average rate for the benchmark 30-year fixed rate mortgage jumped to 7.49%, up from 7.31% last week and from 6.66% a year ago. There's that triple six coming up again, huh? The rate for a 15-year mortgage also climbed an average 6.78% after coming in last week at 6.72%. 1 year ago, the rate on a 15-year fixed note was 5.9%. Yes, these incredibly high interest rates are absolutely paralyzing the housing market. Millions of potential buyers have been forced to sideline because rates have made housing unaffordable in 99% of all U.S. counties. Yes, housing prices are growing more unaffordable, even with the astronomical rise in mortgage rates, putting ownership out of reach for millions of Americans. That's according to a new report published by real estate data provider ATTOM, which examined 572 U.S. counties and determined that median home prices in 99% of those areas are out of reach for the average income earner who makes about $72,214 annually. The latest trend continues a 2 year pattern of home ownership getting more and more difficult for average U.S. wage earners, the report stated. The home prices that we are seeing today are absolutely insane. You have to admit that. Recently, a 565 square foot house in West Hollywood sold for a whopping $1.1 million. That's basically a closet space. That's a box. 565 square feet is a box. A miniature home in Los Angeles, West Hollywood neighborhood recently sold for a whopping $1.1 million, despite only offering 565 square feet inside. The 1924 Craftsman bungalow settled on a 2.240 square foot lot. It's tucked away behind a row of hedges and located just across the street from a fire station. A fire station. I don't even know what to say that someone was willing to pay that much for a glorified closet. But apparently, someone out there had money to burn. And of course, most homes are not selling at this point, period. In fact, sales of existing homes have fallen by about a third over the past year. Something's got to give, right? Either the Federal Reserve has got to dramatically reduce interest rates or home prices have got to fall. And the Federal Reserve is not planning to reduce interest rates anytime soon. Unfortunately, Fed officials keep talking about the possibility of raising them even higher. So a lot more pain is a coming. And the American people, they're worried. They're scared. They're shook. If you can believe it, a recent Rasmussen survey discovered that more than half of all U.S. adults believe that we will experience another Great Depression within the next few years. Ouch. Ouch. That's scary. Despite claims by President Joe Biden about the strength of America's economy, Most Americans still think we're headed toward another Great Depression. The last Rasmussen reports, a national telephone and online survey, finds that 52% of American adults believe it is likely that over the next few years, the United States will enter a 1930s style depression, including 21% who say a major depression is very likely. 36% don't think another Great Depression is likely over the next 5 years, including 11% who say it's not at all likely. Another 11% are not sure. Now, even though they may not understand the specifics, most Americans can feel that something has gone horribly wrong. But things didn't have to turn out this way, did they? You see, the truth is that we didn't learn our lessons from the last financial crisis. Instead of fixing the system, we created bubbles that were even bigger. Now that bonds have crashed, it's just a matter of time before stocks crash too. Yes, we're headed for an economic meltdown of epic proportions. The months and years ahead are going to be incredibly challenging. So I hope that you've been preparing for difficult times, because the nightmare that most Americans will be facing, we've been warning you about this, and it's already begun. So what you gonna do when Hulkamania comes for you? What you gonna do? I hope you got a plan. I hope you have. You want to know why? I'll tell you why. Because the United States has reached the terminal phase of the greatest debt spiral in the history of the human race. The United States of America is the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. World, world, world. Hear the echo? World, world, world. That's a fact. You don't have to like it, but it's a fact. If you're going to go out, you might as well do it with a bang, right? Turn them printing presses on. As the Titanic is sinking, get the orchestra to play some music. At the beginning of June, the national debt was setting at about, let's see here, 100,000 million billion, let's say over $31 trillion. Today it has risen to $33 trillion. That means that we have added almost $2 trillion to the national debt in just 3 months. How do you spend not $1 trillion, but $2 trillion in 3 months, averaging almost $1 trillion a month? How do you do that? How many Bugattis and Lamborghinis do you have to have? How many private jets and 300-foot yachts do you have to buy? How many private islands can you buy with that? You know, what's up with that? Where is all this money going, folks? It's not going to the American people, because every time they start talking about deficit spending, they want to threaten the elderly with taking away Medicare and Medicaid and TANF and WIC and food stamps. They want to come for your entitlements and say, yeah, see, your entitlements is what's doing it. No, entitlements are not $2 trillion in 3 months. That's something else. That's something altogether different. If you were to add up all the entitlement programs, add up all the Medicare spending, add up all the Medicaid spending, add up all the welfare, the SNAP, the TANF, the WIC, if you were to add up all the other things, disability, SSI, you add up all that, and you still won't get nowhere near $2 trillion. I think you guys know the answer to this question. It's not going to the people. The entitlements are not the problem. Our country could easily handle the entitlements. Why do you think they're throwing around universal basic income? Because that's easy to do. That's nothing. But these trillions, though, them trillions, though, what's up with them trillions? Because it's not going to the people. You're not spending $1 trillion on the people. It's not going to the American citizens. If they're lucky, you may throw $1,000 at them in a stimulus check. That's still not $3 trillion. That's not even a drop in the bucket. That's not even interest payments on $3 trillion. So don't blame entitlements as the problem. Entitlements have never been the problem. It's greed and corruption that is the problem. What the politicians are doing to the American family is a crime against humanity. Are you aware of this? It is the largest single debt in the entire history of the world. And it will never, ever, 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 ever be paid off. Ever. The U.S. debt spiral has reached a terminal phase. And all the citizenry can do is prolong the agony by kicking the can down the road. But eventually you run out of road and you start kicking the people. If you keep taking it and taking it and taking on more debt at an exponential rate, you're going to find that it's going to end bad. As for the bright future that our children and grandchildren were supposed to have, oh, your elected officials done destroyed that a long time ago. Once again, what the politicians are doing today is truly a crime against humanity. And it doesn't just stop with the United States. It starts with the United States, but it doesn't stop with the United States. All over the world, politicians are just taking massive forkfuls of money from the people's plate, taking food off the children's table. All right. It's the greatest debt binge in the history of the human race. And they're getting away with it. And they keep getting away with it. Think about it, folks. When are the people going to stand up and take action in the voting booth? They're not. They've been brainwashed. And it's so sad. It's oh so sad. So people are afraid that the apocalypse has started because of what's happening with Hamas and what's happening with Israel. Pump your brakes. It's not Armageddon. It is not Armageddon. If it were Armageddon, we wouldn't be able to have this conversation right now because the systems would be down. There would be no internet. There would be no VoIP, no voice over internet protocols. There'd be no Skyping, no texting, no cell phone service. You wouldn't have none of that. No, this is not Armageddon. All right? It's not. Okay? But you are in the process of that. History is moving very fast toward Armageddon, but we are not in Armageddon yet. Yes, there are signs of the times. Yes, you will be ignorant to ignore them or to deny them. It's undeniable at this point where we are, but we're not there yet. A lot of bad things need to happen first, and those bad things have not yet happened. No, The seven seals have not been opened. No, the bowls of judgment have not been poured out. Okay? They have not. So you can take a deep breath for that. Chances are most people under the sound of my voice will pass away before any of that comes to being. Your biggest danger is not the apocalypse. The biggest danger to the individual human being is dying before that happens and entering into a Christless eternity. That is the scariest thing that can happen to you today. I'm talking to you. It's the worst thing that can happen to you today. You don't need to be concerned about wars and rumors of wars. If the Lord so tarries, there will continue to be wars and rumors of wars that will never cease, that will never stop. There will never be peace on earth, except for temporarily. That's another reason how you know you're not in the apocalypse yet, because there is no peace. There's no peace in Israel. There's no peace in the Middle East. No. Nope. Ishmael and Isaac are still beefing to this day. Jacob and Esau are still beefing to this day. All right? That's what's up. And again, this is not an anti-Semitic broadcast or statement. We're just talking about facts. We're not in an apocalypse. But we are witnessing something interesting, though. You see, America has been the police of the world for the longest time. They have believed that they were put here by God to do a divine work, which is not true. There are people that believe, that the Zionist belief that the current state of Israel is a holy place that can do no wrong and are God's chosen people. So whatever they do, you must always be on their side. That too is a lie and not true. Not true at all. Did not Christ himself say not everyone that is of the seed of Abraham is of the seed of Abraham? Doesn't matter if you were born a Jew or if you were born a Gentile, because at the end of the day, there's only two divisions of people. In America, they like to talk about white people versus black people. But biblically speaking, there's only two classifications of individuals, though there are many ethnicities and nationalities, but the scriptures don't speak on that. The scriptures categorize humanity as Jews and Gentiles, period. And if you are a Jew by birth, that does not give you a guaranteed pass card into heaven. All right? That's why the Gentiles were grafted in, because the nation of Israel sinned repeatedly, habitually, and they lost their place. So what did God do? He destroyed their religion in 70 AD. He tore down the temple. And don't forget, when Christ was crucified on the cross, when he said it is finished, don't forget there was a great earthquake and thunder and lightning, and the veil and the holies of holies was split in two. All of these symbolic things, folks. There was no longer a veil there between God and men, because Christ was that propitiation. So when he voluntarily laid down his life on the cross, he now stands in that gap, in that void between God and men. So you no longer have to go to a high priest anymore. You can pray directly to your Father in heaven by way of Jesus Christ. Before Christ's atonement on the cross, that was impossible. You had to go holler at the priests, and you had to bring your sacrificial offerings at certain times of the year. People incorrectly believe that it was all about the tithe and you had to give 10%. But if you really break down all the offerings and ceremonies, really you had to give up 90% of your income if you want to break it down. That was the real tithe back then. So when people try to force tithing on people today, it's hilarious, because if they expect you to tithe like an Israelite, then that means your pastor should be prepared to live like a Levite. But they don't want to talk about that, because that messes up their false doctrine and them fleecing the sheep. They don't want to talk about that. So next time they try to push that down your throat on tithing and expect you to live like an Israelite, then you need to let them know, fine, I'll do that, but you need to live like a Levite. So them private jets and yachts and mansions you living in, that Cadillac you driving, all that has to go to the people, because you are not allowed to own land or any of that stuff if that's how you want to roll with it. Minister, pastor, reverend, good reverend doctor, you're not allowed to own a thing, and you're not allowed to work. That means you can't own a business. You can't do none of that. None of that fly stuff. So don't even go there. All right. So no, we're not living in the apocalypse, but the processes to bring that about have been started long before any of us were alive. It started as soon as Christ ascended into heaven. That's when that clock started ticking. You should be aware of that. So the Israel that you see today, is that really Israel? The answer is no. You see, there are two houses of Israel that came into being after 70 AD. You have the spiritual house of Israel, those Jews who became born again Christians following Christ, and then you had everybody else. That bloodline of people, if you will, are the ones that gave us the current central banking system and the banks. They run all the banks. They run the world. They literally rule the world. I know you've heard about the Rothschild dynasties and all those other dynasties. Those are all from that Khazarian type bloodline. All right. The true Hebrew Israelites are not from Europe. All right. They want you to believe that, but they're not. They're not European. Okay. They're not Caucasian. They're not European. They were a Semitic people, a people of color. Why do you think it was so easy for Moses to be brought up under the house of the Pharaoh? Because he looked like him. No one questioned that. And why do you think when the diaspora occurred, when the Jews were forced to flee in all directions, that a majority of them went into Africa, went into Central and Western Africa, and they settled there? Why do you think that was allowed to happen? Because they look just like them. It's easier to hide in plain sight when you look like the people that you're hiding within. They didn't stand out like a sore thumb. But there's another issue too that people don't like to talk about. And that is the fact that while Israel was sinning and directly being disobedient to the will of God, see, the Israelites were chosen to bring the gospel to the world, but they failed in their mission. So the Lord raised up Gentiles in their place. All right. So this apocalypse that everyone's talking about, it's really not apocalypse. And people say, they talk about, the the tribulation. It should actually be called the tribulation of Israel, because the Great Tribulation is not for you per se, it's for the Israelites, it's for the Jews. All right. The last 7 years of human history is designed specifically for the Jews. This is their judgment. And out of this, finally, the Jews are going to get it together and they're going to evangelize the entire world. That's what 144,000 come from. All right. So you're going to have these things happening during that time, but we're nowhere near that yet because we haven't had the rapture of the church and the man of perdition has not yet been revealed. He comes after horrific chain of events. That's when he steps on the scene and says, don't worry, I'm here. I know how to fix everything. If everyone will listen to me and give me all your attention and power, I will fix it. And he does. And he enters into that signed and sealed document with Israel to bring peace to the Middle East, and he does it. But it's a Trojan horse because then he reneges and he starts to persecute Israel. So during the time of the Great Tribulation, you're going to have the biggest evangelical event in human history. All right. That happens during that 7-year period. So it's broken down into 3.5-year segments. The first 3.5 years is the tribulation. The last final 3.5 years of the 7 years is the Great Tribulation. It's different. That's when you talk about the seals and the bowls of judgment and God's judging the earth. All right. So even though this is the tribulation of Israel, it also incorporates other people, everyone in the world, because everyone has turned their back on God. And so this is designed to bring people back to God. And it is going to be the biggest successful evangelism the world has ever seen, because you're going to have, the Jews coming to Jesus. You're going to have Gentiles coming to Jesus. You're going to have people saying, oh my goodness, I can't believe that all this stuff is coming to pass. It was written in the Bible thousands of years ago, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be bad, but it's going to be amazing. And it's funny, because we live in a time and a day now where we have all these different political factions. You have your earth people, Mother Earth, Gaia, love a tree, kiss a tree, marry a tree, don't pollute the earth. Let's do away with plastics. Oh, mankind is killing the earth. Mankind is polluting the earth. Oh, you've ruined and destroyed the ecosystem and the environment. The seals refuse to swim anymore. The birds refuse to fly. The grasshoppers won't chirp anymore. It's all your fault. You greedy, evil polluters. Oh no, we can't eat meat anymore because you're killing the earth with all the methane. And, oh my goodness, you're collapsing the environment and the ecosystem. We got to eat insects. It's the only way. Oh no, it's too many people on the planet. Oh no, everyone's going to starve to death because there's so many people. So, this is for the greater good. We have to kill as many people as we can because we got to get the population down to 500 million. All this stuff is laughable. I'm serious. It's laughable. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't have to fear depopulation. You don't. The depopulation agenda is a joke. Do you know who the biggest depopulation is? I'll tell you. It's not the people you think it is. It's not the Illuminati. It's not the Freemasons. It's not the Satanists. Those people are not depopulationists. The biggest depopulationist is God himself. Read the book of Revelation and see. see the revelation of Christ in it, but also see the judgment that is soon to come and shake the earth. Some of these judgments end with, and a third of the people were taken away. And then another judgment comes, and another third of humanity is wiped out. And then another judgment, then another third of humanity is wiped out. So by the time God is finished, yeah, it probably will be about maybe 500 million people left on the planet. But by the time the Great Tribulation is over with, he also said that if he didn't shorten the days and make it so that no human being would be able to survive the Great Tribulation, because it's just too many horrific, mind-blowing things happening at once and back to back consecutively, while the earth is still dealing with the aftermath of the last judgment, the last bowl or seal or trumpet. Here comes another seal or bowl or trumpet right behind that one. Yeah, that's what's coming to the earth. So you ain't got to worry about, Greenpeace and save the whales and all that, because it doesn't matter. This planet is disposable. It was designed and created to be disposable. So the apocalypse will not be the first time that the earth is destroyed. The earth, and by the way, the earth will be completely annihilated, gone, destroyed, removed, and rebuilt and remade again. It is not the first time that that's happened. It'll be the last time. Remember, the first time was with Noah's flood, where he flooded the entire earth. He flooded the entire earth, not a section of the earth, the entire earth. The flood was the greatest calamity of all time, because only 8 human beings were saved from the calamity. Out of all the millions of people on earth at the time of the great flood, only 8 people survived. Because narrow is the way that leads to life, but wide is that gate that leads to destruction. Noah and his family were the only righteous, God-fearing people left. That's why he told Noah to build the ark and get in the ark with 2 of every kind of animal. So when God repopulated the earth after the flood, mankind would be able to repopulate and spread out, as is what happened. That was an apocalypse. Man had 120 years of Noah's preaching to repent and turn to God, and they chose not to. And they paid with their lives. Now, I'm sure, had some people back then saying, save the environment, save the earth too. Not realizing that God was about to destroy everything that you knew at that time. He destroyed the entire planet. And it was a different planet too, by the way. They didn't live under the same environment that we live under today. The earth was totally different. It looked different. It felt different. You experienced it different. They had the great canopy. It never rained in Noah's time. There was no such thing as rain. Water came from the ground. Remember, there were great chasms in the deep and under the earth. These great giant reservoirs of water. And then in the air, in the upper atmosphere, you had this great canopy that covered and blanketed the earth. And therefore it never rained. The entire earth, the topography, everything about the planet was different at that time. That's why men were able to live hundreds of years. They didn't experience the degradation that we experienced because of the solar rays and all that things. They didn't age like we did back then. It was different. But eventually they went through an apocalypse also, because man became evil and did what they wanted to do. But now here's a scary thought. Did not Christ say that as in the days of Noah, that's what it's going to be when the Son of Man returns? People hear that And some people even read the scripture, but they don't really think about what does that really mean? What is being said here? Well, let's look at what was happening in the days of Noah. And for the record, corruption and greed has existed as long as man has been on the earth. So what we're seeing now with the total destruction of the global economy is nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. We are experiencing what our forefathers experienced and their forefathers before their forefathers. It's nothing new. But yet you hear people say, oh, this time it's different. No, it's not different. It's the same condition. And you're seeing the signs that happened in the days of Noah happening right here, right now. Everything that has been going on in the days of Noah are happening today, right now, not just in the United States of America, but around the world. Sin is everywhere. There's no country you can go to in the world right now where there is no sin, where there is no corruption of any kind or greed. It does not exist. It's everywhere. It's permanent and pervasive throughout society. We are experiencing the days of Noah right now. What were some of the things that they were guilty of in the days of Noah? One of the things they were guilty of was not obeying the word of God. Now, I know what you're thinking. Some of you out there are brilliant and your brains move, as fast as algorithms. All right. And high frequency trading bots. I got you. I know. I'm right there with you. You're thinking, how could people have obeyed the word of God when there was nothing written down at that time? See, that's part of the deception that we're living in this world right now. The spirit of deception, as foretold would come, is now here, where the minds of men have been so darkened by sin that the mind does not work properly. That's why you're seeing the breakdown of society. You're seeing people do mindless things that make no logical sense whatsoever. You're seeing the lack of the ability to think and to internalize concepts and knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. You're seeing people void of understanding, void of wisdom, because sin breaks down the mental faculties. It corrupts. Sin corrupts. So the mind is becoming corrupt toward the things of God. We've reached the point now where people cannot endure sound doctrine. They can't. It's impossible. That's where we are right now. In the days of Noah, you had that. Now, people say, well, the Bible is just a collection of stories that, they stole from the Epic of Gilgamesh and all these other ancient writings. And again, that's laughable. And that's proof that the human mind has degraded awfully and is continuing to do so. People who make those statements, A, have never read the Bible cover to cover. And C, if they did read the Bible, they lack understanding. Even the Bible itself says that it's only spiritually discerned. You can read every word of the Bible and not get any understanding whatsoever because it's spiritually discerned. Just because things were not written down doesn't mean they were not compiled. Before the word of God was put pen to pad, it was passed down orally, traditionally orally. Yes, the Bible is the world's oldest religion. Christianity, the Judeo-Christian faith, is the oldest religion on the earth because it did not come with the prophets of the Old Testament. It did not come when Jesus entered the earth. It did not come when the apostles started writing, when Luke started writing things down. No, you know when the word of God was first given? It was given in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. God clearly wrote his word, gave Adam his law. He wrote it and etched it on his heart and in Adam's mind, to the point where we get in the story in the book of Genesis, part of the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the law, the first 5 books of Moses. God told them what was required. We know this because as soon as Adam and Eve fell and sinned in the garden, when they hid themselves because they were naked, what happened? God made clothing for them, and the Bible gets specific. It tells you what he put on them, and they had to now walk around wearing clothing because they have eaten from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Notice how the name of the tree was the knowledge of good and evil, not the wisdom of good and evil. The knowledge, the knowing. Knowing is not necessarily understanding or comprehension. Knowledge is just information. It's benign. It's what you do with the information that determines if it's good or bad. So they had the knowledge when they bit into the tree, but they lacked the understanding. That's the part that they did not get. That's why they shouldn't have ate from the tree in the first place. So God etched his law on the hearts and mind of Adam when he made Adam. And he made Eve from Adam. So the word of God was etched in her heart and mind as well. To the point when we get to the story concerning their children, Cain and Abel, when Cain was jealous and envious of his brother Abel, he hated Abel. What did we see transpire? Again, we're talking about such as in the days of Noah, right? What happened? God spoke to Cain directly, not through a prophet or a priest, but directly. And he warned Cain. He said, now you know, Cain, the only reason why I rejected your offering but accepted Abel's offering is because he did as I instructed him to do. Will I not bless you as well if you do what is right? That's what God said to him. God did not say, you know what, you dirty old rotten thing. I can't believe you hating on you. No, he did not come at him like that. God came to him like a loving father and said, look, come on, man. You know you bugging, Cain. Why you bugging? You know you're not supposed to offer me that stuff. You're not supposed to put that on the altar. You know better than that. You a man of the field. That means you hunt and fish. What kind of animals did I tell you to bring on the altar? And how did I tell you to prepare those animals? What did I tell you about that? So why you will come up here and just throw anything up on the altar like that? You know better. You know what I told you. Now clean that mess up and go and bring me a real offering and stop playing around. Abel did the right thing. Abel was a man of the field, the farmer. He brought the grain offerings the way he was supposed to. Go ahead and read the book of Leviticus if you want to get all in depth and technical about how man was supposed to do the offerings. You just wasn't slaying goats and bulls and throwing berries and corn on an altar. Things had to be done a specific way. God even told them how to prepare the meat, told them how they're supposed to do the offering. Cain was tripping. Cain thought, I just take a shortcut. I don't have to do all that. I don't have time to do all that. I'm not doing all that today. I'm not going to go and do. No. When it came to the offerings, you had to give your best to God, not your worst. You could not offer a sick heifer, all right, or a wounded goat or sheep, or a dove with a broken wing. No, you had to bring him the offering without spot or blemish. Why? Because the sacrificial system of the Old Testament pointed the way to the coming all sufficient sacrifice of Christ. Christ is the finishing work of the Old Testament. The Old Testament spoke of him. Christ was that once and for all time offering. That's why you no longer have to bring animals and vegetables to the offering temple of God and do that. We don't have to do that. We don't have to observe any of the ceremonial things anymore because Christ fulfilled the law. But back to again, as we were saying, in the days of Noah. So what did Cain do? He didn't say, you know what, God, man, you right, man. I was tripping, man. I was bugging. I'm sorry. Let me go ahead and prepare this offering correctly. No, you know what he did? He got angrier and went and slew his brother. That makes no sense to you, right? It shouldn't. He had a chance to get it right. God didn't just rebuke him and say, man, I'm about to strike you down because I can't believe you did that. No. He said, look, man, just do the right thing, Cain, and I'll bless you too. But no, instead of receiving the loving correction and reproof of the Most High God, what did he do? He got mad and said, basically, I'm not going to do that. He rebelled. When you rebel against the word of God, what is that? That's saying you no longer believe, you're not putting yourself under his rule. You're saying, I will not, just like this. It's just like the mob when concerning Christ said, we will not have this man to rule over us concerning Christ. That's what you're saying when you defy God. You're saying, I will not have this man Christ to rule over me. I'm my own man. I'm the captain of my own ship. I'm the captain of my fate. I choose my own fate. I control the world around me. I control my environment. I pull myself up by my own bootstraps. I do this. I. That is the key and chief complaint that God made in the days of Noah. Man did whatever they seemed right in their own eyes. Do as thou wilt. Man did what was pleasing to his own eyes. Right or wrong did not exist to them. It was whatever I want, whatever feels right to me. So they threw away truth, absolute truth, and said, well, everything's relative. Depends on how I feel about it. Depends on what I think. If today I wake up and I feel that I'm 5 years old, I'm not 55. I'm 5 years old. Then gosh darn it, that's what it is. And everyone has to agree with me. If you disagree with me, you're a racist. But you're 55. No, I'm not. I'm 5 years old today. I want my mommy. You would call that person a nut, and you would stay away from that person because you say that person is potentially dangerous. They're psychotic. They've had a psychotic break, a nervous breakdown. This person needs help. Where's the paddy wagon when you need it? Where's the men with the white straight jackets? He needs to be put in a straight jacket and put in a rubber room before he hurts himself and someone else. He's not right. Well, you had a whole world that wasn't right. That was acting like the guy who said, I'm 5 years old today. I'm not 55. And if you disagree with me, then you're a racist and you're a monster and you just want to hurt me. That's what the world is today. It's whatever you say, that's what it is. There's no such thing as absolute truth. There's no such thing as morality. There's no such thing as right or wrong. That's what we are today. Do as thou wilt. So all that stuff that they did back then is happening again right now. This is how you know the signs of the times. The same things they were doing before the flood is what they're doing now. They didn't care. The oral traditions were passed down. Adam and Eve taught their children. Their children told their children, on and on, etc., etc. This is what God requires of us. This is what we have to do to please God. And they got away from that. They said, I'm an adult now. I'm grown now. I don't have to listen to my parents. I'm not going to do that. I'm not doing offerings today. I don't want to do offerings. Nope. I am not giving the first fruits of my vegetables to God. Nope, I'm not doing it. No, I'm not going to give him my best sheep. He can have that sick one over there. He can have the bow-legged one over there. I'm not giving him that's my best. That's my best sheep. That's my best ox. That's my best goat. That's my best turtle dove. I'm not. I can sell that turtle dove in the market for triple the price, man. Why would I give that as a sacrificial offering? Again, man rejected and rebelled against God. That's what was happening in the days of Noah, and it didn't end there. Man took it another step further and started doing abominable things in the sight of God. It's one thing for a masked gunman, to enter your home in broad daylight and point a pistol at you and your family and say, run the jewels. That would be abominable to you. But it will be worse if he entered your home in broad daylight with a pistol and wearing a mask and demanded your jewels, but then also defecated on your carpet. Breaking and entering is bad enough, but now he has the gall, the nerve to defecate on the carpet. What? Oh, and then he didn't stop there. Now he has the nerve to go into your kitchen with his dirty hands, open up your refrigerator, and make himself a sandwich. Man kept taking it to the next level, abomination after abomination. They didn't care that they were offending the most holy God. They just kept doing the most. And they didn't stop there. You better know what's worse than all that. Come on, you can't get no worse than that. The man that entered the house in broad daylight with a pistol pointed at the family. That right there is already unforgivable. But then you said now he's robbing, he's taking their resources. Yep, he didn't stop there. Then he defecated on the carpet. Oh, come on, he's doing too much. No, he didn't stop there. Now he went in the refrigerator and he made himself a sandwich. That's what man did. Man kept progressing in his evil. It got to the point where man's thoughts were evil continuously all the day, 24/7. And then it didn't stop there. All the evil thoughts that he meditated on, he started manifesting. Oh, it'll be good if instead of robbing one family, let's rob two. You know what? Two is not enough. Let's rob the entire neighborhood. And it kept going more and further and deeper and deeper and deeper. And then the abominations got worse. Then what did man start doing in the book of Genesis in chapter 6? Genesis chapter 6. What did they do? They did the unthinkable. They started trafficking with demons, with fallen angels. They started having relationships with demons, with fallen angels, with evil entities that God had booted, kicked, ejected, evicted out of heaven. You can't get no worse than that. Oh, but they got worse. They didn't just traffic with them, but the women got pregnant by them and started having abominable offspring, half human, half angelic beings that became giants in the land that grew to 7, 8, 9, 10 feet tall. Some recordings have them as tall as buildings. Can you imagine a 30-foot tall giant walking around, or a 300-foot tall giant walking around? That would frighten people today. That would frighten people to death. Yes. Can you imagine that? Yeah. And it didn't stop there. Come on now, Dex. How can it get worse than that? You can't get. Oh, it did. Because they said, we're going to do, this what we finna do. I'm tell you what we finna do. We're going to build a tower up into heaven. We getting in heaven. We don't have to stay on earth no more. We want to go to heaven. We want to go holler at God real quick. There's some things we got to holler at God about real quick. So we're going to go ahead and make ourselves a zikkurat, and we're going to heaven. Now, to the unlearned, When you think building a tower to heaven, you may be thinking that they were physically trying to build a tower, a building tall enough where they could literally step off of it and and enter into heaven. That is not true. That is not true. The zikkurat they were building a portal, a spiritual portal where they could enter into the spirit realm. Yeah, that's what the zikkurat was. Why do you think God said, okay, we gotta put a stop this. We gotta shut this down because now man has gotten to a point where they have one language. And then he said they'll be able to accomplish great things, great and even greater and more evil things. We have to shut this down because they're of one mind and one language. We got to shut this down. So what did God do? God came down and confused their languages right in the middle of them working before they could even put the finishing touches on their device, because that's what the building was. The building was not really a building. Excuse me. It really was not a tower. It was a device. A lot of Freemasonic buildings today are devices. They're not really buildings. They're devices. We'll get into that at some other point. But it's a device. It's not a building. You have been tricked in thinking it's a building. It's not a building. Oh, you thought that pyramid was a pyramid. It's not a pyramid. It's not a device. It's something else. It's a device. Anyway, he had to confuse their languages. He had to do that. That's what was going on in the days of Noah. And that's what we see happening right now. Why is there a resurgence, a rise in witchcraft and Satanism? People trafficking with demons and other intelligences, fallen angels. Why do you think that's happening? Because as in the days of Noah, so shall it be when the Son of Man returns. It's really simple when you break it down and look into it. So all these things are just lies and distractions you're seeing right now to keep you from looking at what's really going on. It's not about the war. It's not about Hamas and Israel exchanging fire. It's not about that. The thing they want to keep you from paying attention to today is the collapsing economy and what that means, and the rise of AI, how they want to use that to control and terrorize the people. That's what you should be concerned about, not the apocalypse. Like I said, if the Lord tarries, most of us won't even see it. We'll be dead long long before that even happens. But we are in the process of that. We are getting closer, and the signs of the times are there. A lot more could be said about it. We'll talk about it maybe if we have time to in the next one. But I've gone over today because I started late, so I wanted to give you guys a full broadcast. All right, with that being said, folks, you know what it is. Smash that like button, share with friends and family. You never know who may be encouraged by it. And with that being said, if you haven't already signed up with the channel, subscribe to the channel, go ahead and do that. Also, remember, if you're missing the end of day report, we're over on Rumble now. Post-wave trading on Rumble. I believe there's a link also in the description of this video as well, so you don't miss those end of day broadcasts on Rumble. All right, people, I'm out until the next one. Peace.